Stitch Cuties, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and in this video tutorial we are going to make the Christmas tree toss mug rug. Now if you haven't already, this is available as a free PDF download from our website, stitchesoflovequilting.com. You can see it right here on the pattern. You will download this for free and then you will print it out. I printed it one-sided, that's just a personal preference, but when you get to the back of the pattern where you're going to trace, I do recommend printing that one-sided. If you are familiar with us at stitchesofquilting.com, you know that we love a laser cut kit, and we do have that available as well. Let me reach over. And what's great about the laser cut kit is it comes with everything you need to make the project. So you'll get all of your trees already pre-fused and cut out for you. You get your background, your backing, and your binding fabric in the kit. Super fun. And if you don't want to get a kit and you just want to use the free pattern, please feel free to do so. It's really fun mug rug to make using all of your fun Christmas fabric scraps or just basic red and greens. You can mix up the colors of the trees. You can keep them just like we have. It's a really fun project. So let's go through everything you need to get started. In this tutorial, I am going to come at this tutorial as if you are a brand new beginner to applique. Now we call this sewing machine applique because the applique, you're going to use your sewing machine to stitch it, okay? If you are advanced with sewing machine applique, maybe you'll pick up a fun tip or two in the video. Either way, the free project is a really fun thing to make for Christmas time. I personally am going to use the one I make in the tutorial. I'm going to take it home today and use it on my coffee table for myself. All right, so when you have your pattern, we of course thank you for downloading the pattern and playing along with us. We have not only this video tutorial, but we have other video tutorials available on our YouTube channel, including a binding tutorial, which is really helpful, I think, when you get to the end of the project. And then we list all the materials that you need. So let's go through those together, okay? I'm gonna try and keep my workspace tidy. I highly recommend that. It just makes everything flow so much easier. And I know it's hard to have a perfectly clean sewing room, but it helps if you try, right? Okay, so, and again, this is what the kit has, all the goodies in it. So I'll use that for myself. Okay, so you're gonna wanna have a 1/4 yard or a fat quarter for the front and back of your mug rug. We use this super cute, this is just a little Christmas dot from Riley Blake, and you cut it down to 10 by 8. It gives you those instructions in the pattern. So a fat quarter is plenty enough, or if you have about a 1/4 yard of fabric that you wanna use for the front and back of your mug rug. You can use different fabric if you want. I typically like the front and back to at least be kind of a similar color genre, if you will, because I like to match my bobbin to my top thread and my needle. And so I like for my quilting to match on the top and the bottom. That's just a thing. Also don't like to quilt my back. So, you know, it's a thing when it comes to a mug rug. Then you're going to want to have your binding fabric. So in the kit, we give you a 3-inch piece. You'll cut it down to 2 1/4 or your desired width. I know sometimes if you're doing your binding by machine, you like to cut it a little bit bigger so that you make sure you catch it on the back. No problem. And again, we have a tutorial for binding if you want to take a peek at that. Then for your applique, you just need 2 scraps. So the minimum size you can get away with is 4 by 3 of the red, which is the bottom of the Christmas tree, or green for the top of the Christmas tree. You need 5 by 4 applique print. Super easy to find. You should have these in your stash, no problem at all. And again, super cute fabrics are in the kit. Then for your fusible, so with sewing machine applique, you want to fuse your applique pieces down to the background of your block or your project or whatever it is that you're stitching. That way it stays in place when you're at your sewing machine and you're stitching it. We like to use the Perfect Applique. This is made by Sulky. We also use their threads and many other products. They're just really nice people to work with and they make great products. What I love most about this, you're going to see me using it. This is just a scrap I have right here. On one side, it's your paper backing. On the other side, it's your fusible. And it's so thin and lightweight. It's not necessarily relevant on a mug rug because you're not layering a bunch of pieces. But when you start getting into the really beautiful quilts like our Block of the Month or any kind of advanced quilt that you're going to make, and you're going to have layers of applique, it's really nice to have a really thin fusible so that you don't add any bulk to your quilt. And with this, my goodness, you can't even tell that you have a fusible on it, truly. So love that. And then you're going to want to have a piece of batting that's going to sandwich in between the top and bottom of your mug rug. Same thing that you could use on a quilt is fusible batting. Actually, on a larger quilt, we don't usually use a fusible batting, but you can. But on a small project, it's great. One side feels just like regular batting. On the other side, it has like a webbed texture. You can feel that it's fusible. If you don't have fusible batting, don't worry. You can just cut 2 pieces of fusible. And the reason we like to do, you'll see when we're doing the stitching, it's really nice, or the quilting, I should say, when you have it in place. It's like stuck down. It's not going to wiggle when you're quilting on your sewing machine. So even if you do have fusible batting, when it comes to putting the back on your mug rug, you're going to want to have an extra piece of this is the same thing, the sulky fusible web, and we cut it to 10 by 8. And so this is going to be on the back of my mug rug. This will be in the middle, and the fusible side will be up. It'll all make sense when we sandwich it together. If you don't have access to a fusible batting, you just have regular batting scraps, cut yourself 2 pieces of the 10 by 8. That way you can fuse the front and the back of your mug rug together easily. Okay, so where are we? Oh, you're also going to want to have threads. So when it comes to sewing machine applique, in my opinion, my mom, Julie, who designs all the yummy stuff that you get to make with us, she loves to do a 30 weight thread in the top. Let me pull out this as a sample, and a 50 weight thread that matches for the bobbin. So the reason behind this, the thicker thread going through your needle, it just adds a little more dimension to your applique pieces versus using a 50 weight thread on the top and bottom. So that 30 weight is a thicker thread, smaller the number, bigger the thread, right? So the 30 weight is a thicker thread, gives more dimension, but you don't want to run something that thick through your bobbin, right? Your machine would get a little mad at you. So we match a 50 weight thread in the bobbin. So the 2 colors, if you're doing it just like we are, you would need your red and your green. So we are using 1039 for the red and 1177 for the green. If you've done other projects with us, you know that this green, I think, might be in every single thing we've ever made. This is just such a good green. If you don't own this green, own this green. It's great. Of course, the red is too, but you use green on everything somehow. Okay, and then you're going to want to have the right size needles for your machine. When you're running the thicker thread through your needle, you want a larger eyed needle. So we use a 90-14 when we're running that 30 weight thread through. If you're doing just basic piecing, you would run your 80-12. Okay? And you can quilt when you're quilting your project with just a regular 50 weight white thread or ecru thread if you want for the top and bottom. When it comes to some projects, we do actually quilt with the thicker thread, but on a mug rug, you can use a basic 50 weight thread for the top and bottom when you're quilting it. And I will tell you, the quilting on this, we kept it pretty simple. All Julie did was stitch in the ditch around the tree. That's it. That's all she did. So before we get started on making this, I just want to tell you, if you have fun doing this, we have 2 other projects so far in this series. It's going to be a series of 12, but for November, we came out with the acorn tops. You can see right here how cute this is. And so again, it's available as a kit as well if you want, and then a free download. And then candy corn toss was the October project, super fun. In our family, we're big fans of candy corn, or Julie is. And they're just, this is adorable. You can see how she quilted on this. She did, basically just square straight lines, vertically and horizontally. She did a cross hatch on the acorns. And then when it came to the Christmas one, she just stitched in the ditch. So whatever your heart desires is how you can quilt them. And again, all of these are available as free projects and laser cut kits. And it's a series of 12. So if you want to join us every month, I hope you will. No matter when you're watching this, the pattern should be available. Okay, so, and then of course we go through our notions. You'll see me use all the notions, so I'm not going to go through those necessarily. We have a video, if you look up the perfect stack with us with Stitches of Love, where we go through our favorites, and you'll see me using what I call the perfect stack, which is your light pad, glass mat, fusing mat, etc. Okay, next up, we are going to start. So you've cut your front and back to size. You've cut your binding to size. Reminder, watch this video. Now we are going to get into tracing. Now when it comes to tracing on fusible, my personal favorite thing to trace with onto the paper backing of the fusible is a classic Sharpie. This is my favorite because it doesn't tend to smear or, get messy. And when it comes to your fusible, like I know this looks messy. It comes folded beautifully. It's like folding a mat back together. I can never get it back as nice as it came in the package. And keep all your scraps. Look at this little guy. I'm going to use him on the tree trunks because there's plenty of it left. So when it comes to your fusible, maybe get a little container or a space in a drawer and keep all of your random size fusible pieces that are left over with applique. Okay, so in our pattern, With applique, when it comes to sewing machine applique, it's not necessarily you're going to notice on this because the tree is pretty much the same, reversed or not. But let's just say you were doing a bird. If you trace the bird exactly the way it shows on the project, you're going to onto your fusible, you're going to iron that on the back of your fabric. So when you cut it out, your bird will be reversed. So even though it doesn't look like it, these are not perfect triangles. So they are reversed. So in any case, in our pattern, we always give you the reverse pieces to trace. Some patterns don't give you the reverse piece. I know it's frustrating, but if you do, always make sure that you just basically reverse the piece that you're tracing if you're using a pattern that doesn't give you that. Okay, so let's set everything aside. I have beautiful Christmas nails, but it doesn't allow me to pick up paper if you're noticing that. If we want to take a minute and look at my nails, I have a candy cane. Yay! That's so cute, right? It's fun. Lately, I've started to get wild with my nails. This is as wild as it gets for me. Even my nail technician, nail stylist, professional, she is like, wow, you're really branching out. So is Mom. It's really fun. She has snowflakes right now. Okay, so what we want to do is trace onto our fusible. So let me make sure we're in view. I'm going to trace piece number 1 first. So like I said, I have my scrap. It doesn't matter, right? There's like folds in it from the way it comes in the package. Doesn't matter, okay? So I'm going to put my piece down right here, and we're going to trace. And I want to show you how they're nestled. Anything that is going to be cut on the same color, scrunch it up, baby. Like, keep it all together there. Save the fabric. Like, I know there's not a fabric shortage, but you know, if you're using a random scrap, like the red that I'm using for myself isn't the same red that comes in the kit. And I randomly had a like piece that like butted right up to the salvage from something else I was making. And so it was, you know, a scrap too small to save, but it was very useful. So there you go. So what we're going to do is trace all of these rectangles, which is our tree trunk. What I also love about, and I'm numbering it, that's my 1. I know it looks a little like a messy one. And maybe take your time when you're tracing. I am maybe not taking my time right now because I don't want to make you watch me forever tracing. So what you're doing is tracing each piece, and these are going to be the lines that you ultimately cut on. The red line that you see on the pattern, that is just a little helpful tip for those of you who are beginners to know that when you're cutting out the piece to iron onto your fabric before you actually cut out your individual pieces, you don't need much margin there either, right? And I number all of my pieces. I know on something like this, there's 2 pieces. They're all the same. It seems like, well, why does it matter to number it? But I promise there are many projects where if you didn't number it, you would just like go crazy. So to me, it's a good habit to get into now. Okay, so we are, look, my arm is turning my light pad off. I should have flipped it. If you have a light pad that has a touch button, always put that touch button. If you're a righty like me, put it on the top left. However, today, my light pad is sitting facing the wrong way. So I'll do my best not to turn myself off. If I do, I'll just turn it back on. Okay, so there we go. There we go. 1, 1, 1, 1. Now I am going to go on and trace this outer line just to show you. But this right now, when we're ready to iron this onto our fabric, that's the line I'm going to cut on to cut out my fusible. I could have gone even closer, by the way, to the edge of my, oh, look, I didn't number 2 of them. That bugs me. I know what they are, but I have to. So now we're going to cut out. So see, we have everything traced. Now this right here, we're just going to cut this out along that outside red line. And typically we don't actually draw a line and cut on it for the outer line of cutting this out. I just want to demonstrate. And the pattern is, again, written in such a way where if it's your first time doing applique, you understand that you don't need all the extra fusible around it. It's kind of like if you were making cookies and you're putting cookie cutters out. You want to use as much of the cookie dough like that's rolled out at one time. So you want to get your cookie cutter pieces like perfectly together. So we've traced all of number 1. And now we're going to put this on our red. Whoop. Perfect. Now, if you have like a big piece, let me make sure I'm nice and centered for you. You can put it all the way down at the corner and like save extra fabric. This I cut out again from a scrap just for this. So my iron's probably not hot enough. I am going to just press it. Now I am pressing on, I know it looks like I'm pressing on my light pad, but I have a glass mat underneath my fusing mat. So it is fine to iron right now. You could also pull in your Steady Betty or walk over to your ironing board. So look at that, totally traced. You're going to do the exact same, same thing with your green trees. You're going to open up your fusible. You're going to put it where it's paper side up, fusible side down, and you are going to trace all of your trees, number them all number 2, and then you're going to cut it out along this line, and you're going to fuse it onto the wrong side of your green fabric, just like we did with the red. For the magic of video, I'm going to know that you can do this without the tutorial part. Okay, you're probably like, yeah, duh. You guys, with nails and a fusing mat, I apologize, I cannot move paper, it seems. Now, to cut it out, I'm going to tell you my favorite pair of scissors. These are amazing for all things sewing. I have Karen K. Buckley Perfect Scissors is what they're called. They're serrated and they're sharp all the way to the tip. So really nice when you're cutting something like applique, if you're doing like a more intricate piece, and you can like be real careful and intricate with this tip when you're cutting. They also make, this is the medium size. So this is the size that I pretty much use for everything. They also make size small, which I like to use for my hand embroidery projects. And then they have a large size, which I typically am using that if I'm like maybe trimming something large or working with wool, or I don't know. I don't use the large ones as much. Medium and small are my jam. I apologize if right now while I'm filming you hear noise in the background. The semi truck is here to pick up our daily mail pickup. So you might hear some sounds, unfortunately, out the window. Okay, so to cut out, again, I have my favorite scissors, and you're just going to cut out. Now, when we lay out our pieces, I do like to try and be really nice and make it easy to cut. So see, I'm just going to cut my straight lines, and then I'll go back and subcut those little pieces. Let me show you. Right? Just kind of make your cutting as easy as can be. That doesn't work on all shapes, right? But when you have something like this, you might as well. There you go. So you're going to go on and cut out all of your pieces. They're numbered, super easy to use. So let's, with the magic of camera, set this all aside. Oh, you know what? I need to trace one green tree. No, I'm going to cheat, you guys. I'm going to open another kit. No, I'm going to trace a green. Let's trace a green together. I'm just going to trace one green tree because I made all my applique units for you already with the magic of camera, but I was going to make one by hand real fast in the camera. So let's trace me one tree. Boop, boop, tree, number 2. Okay, there we go. Because I do want to show you how to make an applique unit. Now, an applique unit is where you put the applique together before you're putting it on the actual project, before you're putting it on the background fabric, be it of the smug rug or of a block or what have you. Now, with something like this where it's only 2 pieces, you can probably get away with just putting it all on your background fabric. But again, it's a good habit to practice always using applique units, because if you're gonna mess up when you're ironing something together, it's much better to mess up before you've put it on your actual background fabric, right? So let's iron that down. And I went on and cut it out on the line. That's a no-no for on your fusible, but I'm doing it only because I'm making just one, see? So this is a cheat. Don't tell anybody. Do it like we say in the pattern. Cut all 12 trees out the way we say. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, there we go. So now we're gonna make an applique unit. So with your applique unit, you can do it 2 different ways. You can use the numbered one right here, or you can use the one that's straight up and make all of them on that. Okay, whichever way you want to do. So what I have in front of me, I have my light pad. Then I have a glass mat on top of my light pad to protect it. This is my hair. Gross, sorry. And then we put a fusing mat on top of it. A fusing mat kind of has like a tacky texture. It's got very little bubbles almost in it. And what's great about that is when you're ironing your fusible, the fusible has like space to breathe, if you will, or a place to go. Because when you're ironing your fusible, you're melting your fusible. That's how it's sticking together. You're like melting it together. So what's great about the like ribbed texture, the like square texture of this, is that it gives that melting fusible place to go instead of out from underneath your piece and onto your iron. You wouldn't notice on making like 12 pieces like this, but if you're doing like a huge quilt and you're doing like 200 applique pieces or something, by the end, your iron would start to get like a residue. So the fusing mat really helps prevent that. So all we're gonna do when we put this on here is put down our piece number one, our cute little tree trunk, and then we're gonna put our Christmas tree right on top of that. Whoop. There we go. And look, I wiggled that just a little. And you just want to make sure that they're in place together, right? Now, what we're going to do with our iron is we are going to stick the iron only where it overlaps. And so I'm just going to take the point of my iron. This is an Aliso, what is it, the M3 Pro iron. And I know it's maybe hard to tell in the camera, but I have it tilted just so that the tip is hitting right here. It only takes a few seconds. With fusible, it takes, they say 3 to 5 seconds. It doesn't take very long. It takes like 3 seconds. And I have mine on like a medium, high heat. If you hold that down too long on your pieces, you can actually like overexpose and melt it so much that it's not going to stick anymore. I personally have never done that, but I know it can happen. So I'm going to believe that it can happen and pass that advice along from Julie to you, to me, to you. Okay, so now you've gone through the pattern. You have all of your applique pieces prepped. Now you've built all of your units, right? So you have 12 Christmas trees, 11 for the front, 1 for the back. Let's get them in place. This is the fun part. So we have our placement guide down. And you're going to take your background fabric and you're going to put it over it. Now you'll notice that the size we give you, or we tell you to cut your background fabric, is larger than what you're actually going to trim it down to. So you're going to have a little bit of fabric all the way around, sticking past the 4 outer edges of your mug rug, right? So just put that right in the middle. And now with the magic of camera, let me show you my little trees. So let me show you how you can handle applique units. You don't have to be that delicate with them. Like, they're sturdy little trees. So I have all 12 of my little trees here. Adorable, right? And so I'm just going to set those off to the side. There we go. Put this on high, and we are going to put our trees in place. So let's see. On the camera, can you see my trees through it? Hopefully. If you can't, I know you can at home. You'll be able to see your applique placement guide. That's what's great about the light pad and then having the glass mat, is that back in the day before the glass mat, you would have to pick up your applique pieces, try and like not wiggle it too much, slide carefully to your Steady Betty or onto your ironing board and press it. And of course, pieces moved, even if you have all your units. So yay for the glass mat. Alrighty, so I'm just putting all of my units in place. So much fun. I'm tossing my trees, everybody. Are you tossing your trees too? I need some Christmas music playing. I should ask everybody to comment what your favorite Christmas song or Christmas album is. For me personally, old school 90s Amy Grant Christmas album. Nothing is better. It is not Christmas time until you have ridden around in your mom's car singing that with her while looking at Christmas lights. I am 40 and my mom and I still do that every year. I will tell you, we haven't done it yet this year, but last year there's becoming less and less lights. And so was really dedicated to having like really pretty lights on the house, and the Christmas light people just like kept not coming. So whatever, we have all the other pretty decor, the, things that you put out, but I don't have lights on the house, which is so sad. So if you have lights on your house, on behalf of all of your neighbors, thank you, because it really is so fun to drive around and look at lights, right? Okay. Anyway, that was a side topic. Yay for lights. Now we're going to iron them down. So again, I have my light pad, my glass mat. My placement guide is underneath my fusing mat. I'm not sure if I said that. You want that underneath because you don't want to iron directly on your paper and like crinkle it up. So now we're just going to sit our iron on as we go. You don't want to slide your iron around because you'll move your pieces, right? So there we go. So now the next step after this, you guys, we're ready to stitch. So again, you're going to want to prep before we start stitching. You want to put an open toe foot on your sewing machine. That is so that you can see what you're doing. Take a look at this. Whoop, they're all stuck. Lovely, right? Oh, we got to do our back. So let's keep talking about prepping your sewing machine. You are going to have an open toe foot on your machine. You're going to have a 90-14 needle on your machine. You're going to find your favorite buttonhole stitch. You can also, if you want to just do a straight stitch, you certainly can do that around the inside of the pieces. There's the back, just one cute little guy, and he's about an inch up from where you're going to trim your mug up. Just a fun fact. We typically put the little accent about an inch up. So make your bobbin with your 50 weight thread. Get your 30 weight thread, thread it onto. We're going to stitch red first. So I'll give a little. I'm going to draw you something. Let's draw on a pattern. When we're talking about buttonhole stitches, I feel like it's always hard to show at the machine how you want your stitch to be. Well, let's see. Let me see what I'm working with. Can you see that real good? Okay. So your buttonhole stitch, the way it stitches is it goes like this on your machine. Can you see me right here? The perfect stitch is going to take one stitch forward. It's going to take one bite in, and it's going to come right back out to the same spot. Then it's probably going to do one or two between. That's a good setting. Like small stitches between, right? And then bite in, bite out, doot, 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 doot. That's how it's going to look. Okay, well, hopefully your machine stitches nicer than I draw. What you don't want your stitch to do, there are some sewing machines where it'll go forward and backward on the straight part. So you end up with like basically 3 stitches on the straight line. And then it'll go in and out. And then it's going to go 1, 2, 3 again, and then in and out. Now, what happens on something like this where it's all straight lines, you're not really going to have too much of an issue. But if you're doing something that's curved, let's say you're trying to stitch this circle, your machine will go 1, 2, 3 in, and if you don't pivot right, you'll end up having your stitches kind of on that straight line. They can end up sticking out. So you want to make sure that your machine is always in a forward motion and never going backwards. To me, that is the perfect buttonhole stitch. Some people call it a blanket stitch. It technically is exactly the same thing. So again, forward, in, out, forward, in, out, forward, in, out. It's fine if in the forward motion it takes 2 little stitches right there. Some machines do, some machines don't. That is no big deal right there because you're always in a forward motion. Another thing is, as you're practicing on this, I would say out of the 3 in this series that we've released so far, this is one that uses a straight stitch, so it's pretty easy. You kind of can't mess it up, right? This is curves, and curves are harder than straight lines, right? So out of the 3 in this series so far, this is the absolute easiest one to practice on because you're not doing any curves. So how we're going to stitch this when we get to the machine, we're going to stitch all of one color at one time. So we're going to stitch all of the red. And how you want to start, you don't want to start like at the corner. You want to start where pieces meet, right? So we're going to start right here, and we're going to go down, over, up. Easy peasy. So we're going to do that on the red ones for each thing that we're sewing. Now for the green, I never want to start, well, let me just say this. You never want to start your piece. Like if you have a piece that's all one continuous line, right? I guess in theory, you could say it doesn't matter where you start, but it does. You don't want to start at a corner or a point because you will either have your machine, the machines either start with the bite in or they start with your straight line moving forward. If it starts with your bite in, you're going to have a piece going wonky, a stitch going wonky at the beginning, and you don't want that. Or you're going to end up with a stitch that goes forward and you have no stitches on point. So for me, when I like to start this, I would start on any of the straight sides of this. I'm probably going to start around the bottom middle, right? And I'm going to go around. And this will give you control of the stitch when you go around. I'm going to draw more pictures. I didn't know I was going to draw so many pictures today for y'all. When you're stitching, let's say this is the one that you're stitching. So you're going to start here for the bottom and you're going to go down. It's going to go forward, right? Your machine is always going to be going doo, doo, doo. When you get to a corner, if you can, try to have your point going in like that. So when you're getting there, if you can, that's great. If not, don't worry. But you just want to make sure that your stitch looks good. See, so it's nice to have that little point on the corner. Let me see if I can, like, here's a really good example of it being on the corner just right. But then right here, the stitch just didn't work out where it's on the corner. So it's not a big deal, but it's like, if you can have the perfect world, you would want that nice little like 45-degree angle in right there. 45 degree? Yeah, 45 degree. Yep. Now for the tree, so my machine goes this way. So I'm going to start right here. So I'm going to go forward. It's going to go in, and I'm going to go all the way around, and then hopefully get a nice angle there. Pivot and turn. And when I do this, when I turn my piece, I'm going to put my needle in needle down position. You'll see this. I'm going to actually stitch it for you. Sometimes I think it's easier to draw and have you explain it. And then we're going to keep going right, and it's going to just keep going all the way. When we get here, we're going to hope and pray that when we get to this point, I can get a stitch going in. So if this is the top of my tree, I want a stitch going that way right into the center of my point. That's the ideal thing to happen. It's going to happen on some of your trees. It's not going to happen on all of your trees. That's what you want. And then you would pivot with your needle down, and you're going to keep coming all the way down. Again, you want that 45-degree angle in the corner. Pivot, and then you're going to keep going until you meet up right where you started, right? So that would be the perfect thing. Any other tips I have for that? Nope. Oh, well, let me just say, the reason you want to do it that way is because if you had the tree and you started at the tip, as I said, you could end up where you have nothing stitching up there. So it's not like stable for your tree, right? Or you could have it where your machine does the stitch here first, and then look, you have a rogue stitch out. That's why I like to start on any one of the straight sides is going to give you the best outcome. Okay? And one last thing before we go stitch. I'm talking a lot. I hope it's helpful. When you are stitching anything, you always want to start from the bottom layer and go up. However, you also don't want to change your thread a million times. So once you have a thread color on, do everything in that color, even if it's like maybe on top of other layers. That is just my opinion. The reason you want to start at the bottom and go over is the theory is that when you then stitch the other color on top of the next layer, that you are going to somewhat lock the previous stitching in place. In my opinion, modern day machines do that for us. But I just think it's good to follow the practice of stitching in order. In our patterns, you'll see that we give you the stitch order. It's not really that relevant on these because there's only 2 colors, but we do tell you boop, 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 where it's time to stitch. And when it comes to stitching, we are going to put behind our fabric. If you just go up to your sewing machine and try and run this through, it's going to buckle and like not do great. So we put Sulky Tear Easy Stabilizer behind it. We love this stabilizer because it's like strong enough when you're stitching to keep everything stabilized, which is what it's supposed to do. And then when you're done and you're going to pull it out, it's not hard to pull out, and it's not going to distort your stitches. There are some fusibles, and Sulky makes thicker fusibles too. So it's not just Sulky that makes the best fusible. It's our best stabilizer. Happens to be our favorite. But any brand has like thin stabilizer that you can use. But so no matter what brand you're using, if you use a thicker stabilizer, what can happen is when you're pulling, you can pull those stitches, and your perfect little 90-degree angle stitches that go in on those straight lines are going to distort, and they're going to be like 87 degrees or 45 degrees and like 30 degrees on the corner instead of 45 degrees. It's going to go make all kinds of wonky lines, and we don't want that. Your stitches will end up looking like my drawing. Okay. So now get your thread, your bobbin, your open toe foot, your needles, and let's go to the sewing machine and stitch some trees together.
Okay, it's Julie here, and I'm going to show you some of my tips for stitching around this little red Christmas tree trunk and then the Christmas tree itself. And so first I'm going to make sure that, like Brittany said, using your open toe foot, line up your needle so that it's going to be right on the outside edge of your red lines, the straight line of the red. And then, well, this is a little bit fast. Maybe we should slow this down, especially if you're new and haven't done much of this. Okay, this is like driving through a speed zone, isn't it? Right here, a school zone. So you get to the end, leave your needle down. If you have a needle down feature on your sewing machine, you want to try to use that, please, because you'll find it's a lot easier to pivot and make any kind of little adjustments if your needle stays in your fabric when you stop. So here we go. See, it's going right on the outside edge. You want your needle to bite into the background fabric so that it doesn't fray the very edge of your applique piece. And now I'm sewing with my finger. In other words, I'm sewing with using my finger to control the start and stop. And then I'll do a single stitch like this right here and cut it. See there?
You make it look so easy.
And Brittany was going to do this, but she wasn't exactly having fun. So she says, Mom, please come in here and do this. I've been working on another quilt right now that we hope to have released very soon. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody likes it. So here we go again, just to show you a little bit faster. These are very simple shapes, so it's very easy. Also, your machine, if it's like this one, it may have the feature where it'll, your needle will stay down, but your presser foot will stay up when you finish. I'll show you what I'm talking about because I just turned that feature on. Look at there. Magic. So then you don't even have to do anything. You can just push your button again and say go. Or if you're using a foot pedal, just start sewing. I haven't used a foot pedal in years. I mean, probably at least 20 years. I can honestly say that because I know I bought a machine 20 years ago that had that feature of push button start. So there you see we have, I'm probably making you dizzy moving this all around. We've stitched all around this. This is an applique stitch that I like that takes, if you noticed, 2 stitches on the outside and then it bites in and comes back out and then 2 stitches again. That gives you a little bit more control, especially when you're doing curves. So you'll want to go around all your little red pieces first, and then we'll rethread and switch to green. So now I'm going to do that for you real quick. Change to green. Okay, everybody. So now I've changed my needle to having the green thread that matches this. And so I'm going to start not quite on the very edge of this point, but close to it, right here. And again, drop my feed dogs, or my presser foot, excuse me, not my feed dogs. Do not drop your feed dogs. You need your dogs. You want them to pull your fabric for you. Sorry, I misspoke. So now I've gotten to the end. And a lot of times what I'll do with this is I'll take, if you know what your machine's going to do, like I knew it was going to do a tiny little stitch, so that puts me, it anchors my point and also puts me right back where I want to be when I pivoted. I hope you all caught that. Let me turn that a little bit. And now here we go. When you are at a point like this, if you like to, I stitch, let me back up. I stitch with a narrow bite in, a 2. This is set at 2.0 by 2. But if you like a wider stitch, which I know some people do, then when you get to a point like this, you can make your machine smaller, take a narrower bite. Oops, excuse me, y'all. We have a puppy here who decided to jump over a cord to the camera.
She heard you talking about feed dogs.
Oh, feed dogs.
She was like, I'd like to be fed as a dog.
I have a very food motivated dog, y'all. She is something else. But anyway, what I was trying to say is when you get to a point, if you like a wider stitch, when you get to a point, you can change the width of your stitch and drop it down to narrow. And then when you turn your corner, after you've taken a couple stitches, just make it a little bit bigger, like however you like it. Now here I am going, I'm going to try that one more little stitch. See there? It just catches it really well. Now it's going to bring me back here. Now this thread matches so well that I'm not too concerned that it doesn't I hope you can see what I mean. Let's see. Let me get that thread out of there. Let's see. I might be dropping the sun off the light. That might work. Can you see those two stitches? They're really close to each other right there. On this particular thing, it's not that important. If you're doing really what you might, a fancy quilt that you really care a lot about, just be careful when you turn like that so you can get it more evened out. Okay? So let's assume that we have done this entire piece and done all these little trees. I'm going to show you how I would quilt this. So just 1 second, let me flip this over. You don't have to turn it off, Brittany. I'm just going to cut this away so it's not obvious to everybody. Because once you have your stitching done, you're going to want to tear your stabilizer away. I'm not doing that because I don't have it done, actually. But I don't want to take the time for y'all because that's like watching the grass grow. Okay, so now this is ready. So what you'll take then is you'll have your batting.
Fusible batting.
Which I like to use fusible. This, I don't know if y'all can see, but there's some little fibers of fusible fibers on here. What I normally would do is I would press this to it. Do you have an iron on, Brittany?
I do.
Well, do you want to fuse this on here?
I will.
Okay. She's going to fuse this for us.
You need to entertain. We're going to have dead air.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. What can I do? I could tell you a joke. Oh, what was the joke?
Why did the snowman go to the garden?
Yes. Okay. So I like to cross stitch, and there's an event that happened recently called the Jingle Ball. And during the Jingle Ball at the end, Teresa Kogut was doing some talking, and she was telling some jokes. And one of the jokes was, why did the snowman go to the garden?
Change your thread while you're saying the joke.
Oh, yeah. Should have done that, huh? So, Brittany, why did the snowman go to the garden?
Do you want me to tell the answer?
Go ahead.
To pick his nose.
Teresa and her friend got so tickled over that, and I have to say,
we've told it to everybody we know now.
They had quite a few little jokes that were all so cute. They were just all cute, clean jokes, but I couldn't remember. I should have written them down, but I didn't remember them all. And
that was my favorite.
It wasn't recorded. But if you guys do like to cross stitch, that was quite a fun event. You could take classes. It was all remote. You watched it on not Zoom, something else called Excel event, but it was like Zoom. And you could watch it. You could go in rooms where other people were stitching and talking, and they had lots of little fun events and entertainment. I've got my thread hung up. The designers that were there spoke, and they had meet and greets with them. And I guess
Santa was there.
And Santa Claus was there at the end. There was an interview with Santa Claus, and I'm telling you what, I'm old, and I have never heard Santa Claus interviewed so well before. Actually, mostly Santa Claus doesn't get interviewed. He always asks what you want. He doesn't ever have much to say. But boy, this Santa Claus did, and it was wonderful. Okay, so now Brittany has ironed this on for us, and we're going to pretend that all of this is stitched. And so what I like to do with it, I mean, you can quilt it however you want, but I think it needs to have a little bit of quilting. So what I like to do is just outline, stitch around these. Now I'm going to go to a straight stitch. I changed my thread to a 50 weight. It's white, so it matches my background. And I'm going to stitch this with about a let's go 2.6. And it's going to stitch right in the middle. So I feel like I'm getting hung on something. I guess not. Okay, so I would go up here and I would start right here at the outside edge and simply.
So you're stitching in the ditch.
Kind of like stitching in the ditch, but there's not really a ditch. I'm just going around the edge. Here we are. And, this doesn't really show very much. So you don't have to be super close. Like right here, I'm not super close. It doesn't matter.
While you're doing that, I'll prepare your backing so you can show that.
Okay.
If you hand me your back,
I was
I'm going
gonna
to
say.
fuse it for you so you can just show how they would sandwich it.
Okay. Yes, on a big quilt, you generally quilt through your backing and the top, you know, like especially if you have a long armor who does it for you, or you do it yourself on your machine. Even little things like this, you can do that. But because we put an extra little Christmas tree on the back of our little Christmas tree toss, I don't go all the way through. I just go through this one side first, so my back will look nicer. So basically, you're going to keep going around these. I'll just do that right now. Do another one while she's doing her thing back there. What are you doing, child?
Nothing.
She's making a lot of racket. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but
I had a moment.
she's having, oops, there I went. Move my little thing a little. Put that needle back down. Okay, come on around. See, and you could, I mean, these are straight. You could speed this up a bit if you wanted to. Oh, here she is. Okay, so woo, I'm almost there. One thing I would advise too when you're doing this, if you start your little trees always in the same spot when you do this, you'll know when you got back to the end without having to watch your thread so much. Because see, I stopped before I got to the end. But I did that on purpose. But here we have this. So now this is our backing.
Pretended stitch.
Yes, that we put an extra tree right here on the middle. And what I like to do is I put a piece of fusible.
Yeah, perfect applique.
Perfect applique. That's the name. I don't know why I can never remember the name of that. But you can, whatever brand you like, use it. But I like to put that on here. And then, oh my goodness, y'all. There we go. Peel your back off. There you go. Did I turn something off?
No, I was going to see if I could give you more space to work in. Okay, I can pull the camera up. Everybody, you're going on a rag.
Woo. Okay. So my little tree is right here. These trees are here. I wouldn't trim it down just yet. These should be cut to the same size.
They are.
Okay. And then what I would do, I'm sorry, guys. I bumped the camera. You have no idea how tight this little spot is. It makes it fun. Okay. So then just press this on. You want to press again, Brittany?
I will press.
Okay. One time, oh gosh, this has been about 25 years ago, took a class in Birmingham, Alabama with a lady, and a whole bunch of us went, and she was teaching us how to make bags. And I do not remember this lady's name, but she was so fun. And I think of her every time I'm working with anybody and we're doing any kind of ironing or pressing, because she told us, she said, when we got to, if we needed to press anything, we could just say, press, just like that. And she would come get it and press it for us. So she did. So, okay. So you have this on here. You've already quilted it. The next thing, wow, Brittany, where are we going?
There you go.
Wow. Okay. So the next thing that you would do is you would trim this to the proper size. Okay. Your back's going to look all nice and neat. That's going to be appliqued. Your front is going to be all quilted in the ditch. Okay. So this would be trimmed down to the proper size, because you can see it's
9 by 7.
9 by 7, a little bit smaller than this. What was this? 10 by 9?
10 by 8. And
10
you're
by
trimming
8.
to 9 by 7.
You trimmed to 9 by 7. Okay. So once you've done that, then you have to get your binding on here. So your binding we cut to 2.5, I believe.
Yep.
So, but we give you a bigger piece if you buy our kit. But anyway, cut your binding at 2.5, and you'll only need 1 strip. And you'll want to prepare it like you normally do.
And we have a great tutorial for that already.
Yeah, we do. So you'll end up with your binding will be, whoops, let's see, I'm wiggling things. I'm sorry, everybody. You would then prepare your binding like you do. And I like to sew it on from the top. What I've been doing lately, and this is why.
Where do you begin your binding?
On a long side. Actually, there it is right here.
You got something. On a long side.
Sorry.
That was fun.
I'm having trouble. I haven't talked much today. I've been working by myself until just a minute ago. Okay, so you can see right there is my little seam for my binding. But I would start sewing, leave my tail up here somewhere, and I'd start sewing. Actually start sewing, leave your tail, start sewing about an inch here, come down, miter your corner like you normally do. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do watch our video on binding, because I tell you everything I'm saying now. And then go around all your corners, and then you'll join it up. Now, on these little guys, I stitched the binding a 1/4 inch away using a 1/4 inch foot. I would change to a 1/4 inch presser foot. And then when you flip it over, because you've used 2.5, it's going to be too large. See, and I didn't do a very good job at this.
Show this side.
This side looks better. Did I do this? I'm sure
You made it, not me.
I did do this. Okay. I was in a hurry, under duress. And you can see I quilted through this way, even through my little tree.
That's
sorry.
why we tell you to not quilt.
Don't do what I did on this one. The others look better. But anyway, when you turn it around, you don't have to worry about catching it. You're going to stitch it in the ditch, and you don't have to worry about catching it. Now this, I would never, ever, ever do this on a quilt that I cared about. I always hand sew it, and it turns out looking beautiful. And you don't see this line right here. I don't care for that, but
on a mug rug.
For a little mug rug, or honestly, if you're going to do like a little quilt for a baby or a child that's going to drag it around and you're going to be washing it every week, then by all means, do it like this. I mean, you'll save yourself a lot of time, and it's going to hold up and be just fine. Or you can do it the other way too. But, you know, if you're in a rush, you can do it this way. So anyway, there's your cute little Christmas tree toss. We hope that you have fun with this. We do have fun with them. It's just a nice little fun thing.
And if you had fun with this, you can do a Stitches of Love block of the month.
Yeah. And we also we've been doing this for a few months now. So there's the candy corn toss.
Yep. I showed them already in the video. And the acorn toss.
And now we have a Christmas tree toss, and we're going to have a mitten toss for January. Probably hearts in February. I can't remember what it is.
Hearts are February.
Shamrocks
are
March. You know, we're kind of boring. We go with the usual.
But it's so cute to use in your home.
I might spice it up and throw you guys something weird in there, like a snail. Like, where would you do a snail? Actually, I do know. I already did. I did do a frog.
A frog is for July.
Oh.
On the schedule.
Oh, well, anyway, I did a frog. So at any rate, you guys, we hope that you had fun with this, and we hope that you enjoyed this free little thing. Every month you'll be finding one. If you come to our website, you can download it.
Yeah.
And they will find it under free patterns?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's under practice projects.
Oh, what do I know? Practice projects.
Practice projects.
Okay. And on that note, we'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we want to thank everyone for being our customer. We do appreciate your support.
And happy stitching.
And happy stitching.
Alrighty, Stitch Cuties, so you're all done now making your Christmas tree toss. I hope that you had so much fun, and thank you to my mom, Julie, for coming in and sharing her stitch tips. Y'all, when it comes to stitching with the camera in front of me, I was making the machine jam. I didn't thread it right. There is something about me that cannot stitch on camera. Give me an embroidery machine, I can stitch on camera all day, every day. So in any case, I hope that you have so much fun. I hope that you have no pressure while you're making yours. Don't film yourself making it. Just go in that sewing room and have fun. And you can make as many of these as you want. They make great little Christmas gifts for your family and friends. I know that I'm going to keep the one from the sample today. I'm going to finish stitching it at home and enjoy it on my machine and stitch it and use it. And I'll probably pick up another kit and take it home with me too to make a second one. So both myself and my husband have one on the coffee table when we're probably, I would say, be all cute. We're eating our hot chocolate, but really we're going to be eating soup because that's what we eat at our house all the time. Alrighty, so I hope you had fun and happy stitching. If you are familiar with Stitches of Love Quilting, we are your home of Block of the Month quilts. They come in super cute boxes every month, and they're one-of-a-kind quilts that either Julie has designed or she's worked with Lindsay Osterman and Dornant to design some of them, and also our good friend Amy Brucken of Amy Brucken Designs. So there are a plethora of amazing quilts to make. And again, I hope that you enjoyed making your Christmas tree toss. Happy stitching.